Welcome, Harrisburg, to another great day in the city of Harrisburg. I'm Marilyn Thompson, and today we're here to talk about some exciting information, a new initiative that's been launched with the city of Harrisburg along with all of its federal and regional partners. Today we're announcing the discussion around the High Watermark Initiative, also known as Know Your Waterline. As you all know, the city is not exempt from seismic storms here in the last several years. We've been confronted with Storm Lee and Storm Sandy. And today it's about informing and empowering the public about all the different partners are involved with this program and how you can become better informed and better prepared, and ultimately that resilient businessman or resident on how to prevent from enormous damage to both your human capital and also to your property. So we have some exciting guests today here, very distinguished guests that have come from the federal government and also the regional partnerships, starting with Vince Brown, who is the senior program specialist for PEMA. And also we have with us Stacy Underwood, who is also with the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and she is the Flood Risk Program Specialist. And along with her is Ben Pratt. And Ben is with the Susquehanna River Basin Commission, and his position is a hydraulic engineer. So we're going to be bringing you what may be some boring information, but exciting information, because we're trying to bring it to you, to your front door. Very simple. We had a great tour today with the school students in the STEM program, science, technology, engineering, math, and they're very excited, had some very thought-provoking discussions with them around the flood. And to let you know that we're talking about the history of Harrisburg and the seismic floods we've had for decades, and also knowing that we were confronted with Storm Agnes years ago, and I was probably only 7 years of age, I'm 52 now, when that storm came, and it was absolutely mind-blowing to me as a child. So we're going to talk about the purpose and the Know Your Water line, and also the High Mark Water Initiative, which is one and the same. And we are going to have Vince Brown to lead us off in that discussion and talk about the purpose of this program and how it involves you. Vince?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm 27, and I don't remember Agnes. I was just getting out of college when that happened. That was a big storm. And I know areas up here like Harrisburg got hit pretty bad, and that's unfortunate. This is our launch day for this initiative. We appreciate you becoming a pilot for this Know Your Line High Watermark campaign. So we are launching it today. We had the program in the schools this morning, and the students were very attentive, and that's one of the things we want to do is encourage our kids to study math and science and do careers so that they can join agencies like we have. They're doing good things out there to help make communities more resilient. So the High Watermark campaign is an effort to have communities enhance their discussion about, in this instance, flood risk. We feel that the more you talk about your risks, the more you will start to try and manage them, and the more a community will be driven to take mitigation or prevention actions. So we want to compliment you, Mayor Thompson, for really embracing this program and bringing it to Harrisburg. This is our second launch event, and it's very important to us because Harrisburg is an important city, and we're glad to be here. And when you see these signs around, we want to have discussion around them. We want the kids to talk about them, and it's important. We have to start the conversation, and that's what this program is all about.
Well, we appreciate you offering it to Harrisburg, and I might add, it's like 4 other or 5 other cities around the world that are involved with this pilot program, and so we're just very honored and felt it to be very important, along with my staff, our Public Works Director, our zoning officer, Jeffrey Knight, and our engineer, Paul Francis. We all were, and Dave Patton, our Building and Housing Director. We were all very excited about taking this on, and I know there was some discussions about perhaps maybe the city is not ready for the rollout of this program because of all of our other challenges, but we wanted to let everyone know that this is a part of our recovery. And the more informed our citizens are, the better they are, more empowered they are. And we're always looking for ways to minimize our human capital loss and our property loss. and that we just felt that the timing was ripe and that we were ready to take it on, because we have been confronted with these seismic storms over the last several years, and I am very proud of our emergency response team and how we all work together to address our seismic storms. And in the Susquehanna River, while she looks calm on a daily basis, she can be one roaring animal, and we certainly have been at her mercy, and we certainly respect and bow down to that roaring element of Mother Nature. But we also know that our first and foremost priority is public safety, and so we were very eager to help make our citizens and our business community partners in this with us, because the more informed they are, the better prepared they can become, and the more timely the information is for us to turn it over to the residents of the business community, the less casualties we can have. And that's why we felt it important to have this program here. So let's talk about your role, Ben Pratt. You're a hydraulic engineer, and one of the fascinating things I saw in the reports that I got to want to be a part of this program was that technology is so advanced today that we can determine how fast the water is coming and the different inflows from different rivers and different water bays, how they all merge into our Susquehanna, and how it makes it even more of a roaring element when those floods come. And talk about how you're involved and the equipment you have, and let's talk about the highest flood we had in the city of Harrisburg as you know it.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, it is a pleasure to be here today and be part of this initiative. Our role at the Susquehanna River Basin Commission is one of facilitating the warning that the city of Harrisburg receives, and that warning is basically provided via information from the stream gauge that sits on City Island. And in the face of a pending flood, there's a forecast issued on that particular gauge. A stage, an expected stage that the river is going to reach is reported. And so the commission has been very active in facilitating the system that provides that information. And it's important for residents of Harrisburg to understand sort of where they are in the hydrologic world. Harrisburg is sort of at the bottom of the Susquehanna River watershed, which is a very sizable area of more than 27,000 square miles. And so all of that area drains into the river and eventually passes Harrisburg. And so when we have significant rain events in the upper parts of the basin, that's what drives the river here at Harrisburg. And so the flood of record here in Harrisburg, as we've already alluded to in several of the comments, is in fact Agnes. I think it's the storm that is most etched on the residents and the citizens of Harrisburg's mind. That particular event reached a level of 33.27 feet for the gauge at City Island. Actually, at that point, the gauge was located slightly downstream. It was moved shortly after Agnes, but a very significant event in terms of the watershed overall. Caused more than $2.5 billion worth of damage. In 1972 dollars. Today, that would be more than $14 billion. So unfortunately, we had loss of life. I think more than 75 people lost their lives in the basin. So very significant event, and one that we'll remember. It's not the only event that Harrisburg's experienced. Most recently, in 2011, we had Tropical Storm Lee, where the river crested just over 25 feet, which is not as catastrophic a flood in Harrisburg as Agnes was, but certainly some of the areas like Shipoke, some of the lower areas in Harrisburg down in Steelton, and some of those areas were certainly impacted, a lot of basement flooding and that type of thing. So, and then I think it's also important to note the 1996 flood. And I think what's interesting about that flood is that it was more related to ice jams. That was, of course, the flood that we lost the Walnut Street Bridge in. That flood, actually, interestingly enough, was a little bit less than Tropical Storm Lee, but because there was a significant amount of ice on the river, it was the ice floating that actually took out the Walnut Street Bridge, that we can all still go over there today and see that missing section of bridge and be reminded of that event. So ice is always a challenge in the river. We've been fortunate over the past couple of years that we haven't had hard freezes on the river per se. But we should always remember that ice, when we do get those winters that are hard, we do get a hard freeze on the river, that ice does create that risk as well. So.
Yeah, I am certainly appreciative of the on-demand information we get when you talk about the stream gauge and being able to determine the amount of water that's flowing in from the other upper parts of Pennsylvania. And the amount of rain that's dropping, along with detecting the amount of water that's rushing in. I was pretty amazed that the technology today can literally tell me how quick the river is rising and better prepare our first responders to the quick response to the media and also to the residents and businesses in those low-lying areas. And I'm equally amazed at the size of the Agnes flood, and I always try to relate to young kids and say, imagine being in a flood at 33.27 feet and how the water covered rooftops. And our city is unbalanced. In some places you can see where the water is over the embankment and flooding basements, what we call those low-lying areas. In other sections, 2 blocks down, the water won't be in their basement. But it's always important to have everyone know that their area is vulnerable no matter what. And so we really appreciate the technology today and how we're able to better prepare for that. So let's talk.
I think just one more point about the stream gauge here at Harrisburg, to understand that there is a whole network of stream gauges in the basin above that Harrisburg really relies on to get that accurate information, and we're continually challenged with funding those gauges and keeping that system operable. So if it weren't for those gauges that are in the basin above, it would be difficult to provide a forecast at Harrisburg as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. I had a meeting with several businesses on the Cameron Street corridor who really experienced the Agnes flood, and the one company in particular is the Hershey Creamery, and they had pictures, and I literally saw tractor trailers floating in the water. That goes to show you the force of water and the destruction it brings when it comes. So again, it's about being prepared and having those tools and those instruments that determine the water flood and the flow of it, that allows us to better be prepared. And I'm right there on the ground level with my staff when it comes to these floods, and so I'm pretty in tune with what happens. The Paxton Creek is a challenge for us, because I asked Paul, can you go out and determine the amount of water that's coming down, the rain, and determine how quickly the inches are growing in order to be able to better prepare for traffic flow or having to disrupt traffic flow, because Cameron Street gets flooded and it's a nightmare because it's a high industrial road, a lot of traffic going through there, and it's a nightmare when some people tend to not realize that the water is deeper than they know, and tractor trailers have literally got stuck there. So I hope that we can find some technology going forward for the Paxton Creek to better prepare us for those kind of flash floods as well.
It's important that you are concerned about the businesses in town. We have a stat that we use at FEMA that 40% of small businesses never recover from disasters.
Wow.
And that is something to think about. It's important when we have these discussions at the community level that everybody comes together, the businesses, the school districts, local officials, the non-government organizations like the Red Cross, and everybody comes together and figures out what their part is in helping this community stay resilient. And when those businesses, young folks start their businesses up, and they operate them for 2 or 3 years, and then something like this happens, and they don't have a chance to come back. That's what we don't want.
Yeah, that's why we're really glad that this program is rolling out, because the signs, as uncomfortable it may be for certain people, it is an important educational tool, and that's why we are excited about embracing it and taking it on, because the more informed our citizenry is, the better empowered they are to help us be partners in these times of unexpected floods such as Mother Nature. And our storms are becoming more seismic. When we look at what happened in New Jersey and New York, and just the amount of money that Mayor Bloomberg and Governor Cuomo and also Governor Chris Christie, the amount of money they had to spend, but equally important, the amount of painstaking hearts that came out of that, with families being destroyed, and particularly at times when you don't have insurance coverage. And so those are the things that matter to me as a mayor. How do we minimize casualties? How do we minimize property risk? And this kind of program is an added value to constantly keep people engaged in those kind of thought-provoking discussions that don't take anything for granted, and always prepare for the worst, and hopefully we come out, with the less casualties that often come out of these kinds of unexpected Mother Nature storms. Let's talk with you now, Susan Underwood, who is the program, flood risk program specialist, because this is all around risk and how we prepare for those storms. And let's talk about your role as United States Army Corps of Engineers, because you guys really do a fascinating work in terms of how you can determine the speed of water coming down and the speed of it and how quickly it rises. I was fascinated about what your role is in this, and talk about your role and how important it is with storms like Sandy and Lee.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mary. Thanks again for having us here today. I guess one of the initiatives that the Corps has been doing a lot of interagency coordination over the last few years. High water mark, although it's FEMA's programs, we've been helping coordinate it with the various agencies, the ones you have here, also USGS, National Weather Service. So a lot of agencies, and a lot of us work with flooding and flood risk. We all have a little different, unique role, but we're all in this together, and we want to reduce risk. We want to help save lives and reduce damage to property. So we've been helping with coordinating this effort, but some other things, we've established a Pennsylvania Silver Jackets team, which again is this interagency group, which we have about 10 to 15 different agencies, federal, regional, state, and a few local. We've been underway for about 2 years, and we meet every month, we coordinate, we collaborate to try to implement projects such as this high water mark. We've actually just in the last month or two released a new website, Silver Jackets. It's a flood risk management tool. Citizens can go online, and it actually gives you, we've compiled all the best resources to know before a flood, things as simple as what is a flood plain, what is a levee, how are storms forecasted. It has the best links to National Weather Service sites and USGS sites and so forth. It has links to what to do during a flood. If I'm being evacuated, where can I go? That you can find shelter information and so forth. And then post-flood, I've just been flooded, can I go into my house, and that sort of thing. So it's a great new tool that's out there. Again, outreach, we're just trying to educate the public on this. And then really the biggest tool that we're excited about here in Harrisburg that we're just wrapping up is these flood inundation maps. You're talking about these tools that we want to educate the public and give them as much information as possible. Just in the last, I guess, couple days, Ben, we posted these flood inundation maps. They are for the Susquehanna River. When the Susquehanna River is going to flood, the stream gauge that they were talking about at City Island, USGS is the one that manages that. But the National Weather Service actually uses that as a forecast point, so they'll forecast how high the water is going to be. And then what we've done is we've prepared maps at 1 foot increments. So at elevation 17, 18, 19, you'll be able to click on these maps. So citizens, business owners will have access to these maps, be able to see Weather Service is predicting a stage of 24. Where is that going to cover? And they're going to see if their house is inside or outside that. It's going to show the flooded areas, the extent of it, and it's going to show how deep. So you can kind of see if you've got about close to 1 foot around your house or if you're going to have 5 feet. And it's actually a 20-mile stretch. We've gone 10 miles upstream and 10 miles downstream of Harrisburg. So
we hope with these inundation maps that they don't wait until the water gets around their house. And that's why I talk about the ready on-demand information. These inundation maps and these websites give you ready on-demand information so that parents and families can prepare at least 3 hours in advance to get out. Right. And that's what really piqued my interest, that we're able to go into these sites, the weather forecast sites, and also and now using the inundation maps and determine how quickly that storm is coming, how much rain is dropping, with the amount of rain, and also the inflow of the other rivers up above us, upper part of Pennsylvania, how quickly they're flowing in to determine that by Thursday, if the rain started on Monday, I will know that I'm going to be at 20.6 feet of water in the Susquehanna, and so I can begin to tell the Shyport residents, get out of there on Tuesday. Do not wait for Wednesday. Do not wait for Thursday, because that flood's going to be right here at your door, at the top of that doorknob, and you don't want to be there trying to have us rescue you in a boat.
Exactly.
So that's the smartness about the technology today, and I thank all of you for your brilliancy and being able to just have these kinds of abilities to better able mayors in particular how to better prepare for the protection of their citizenry, and most importantly human casualty, to prevent it, minimize it, not allow it to happen. And the more informed our residents are, the more cooperative they are, because you have some folks who just don't want to leave. They want to stick it out, you know, and all too often when people do that, they underestimate Mother Nature and her ability to come in swiftly and destroy. So
Right.
this is why I really think it's important to have this talk show, to be a part of the initial groundbreaking pilot program, being a city, one of 5 that has already rolled it out, because we want to be ahead of it, because I've experienced these floods and I know what it is. It is intense. My adrenaline is always at its highest peak, you know, but I am blessed with a very talented group of staff members who just are ready, and they sacrifice their families, and we're sometimes around the clock. We go into what I call the war room, which is called the Emergency Operations Center, and we rely heavily on these on the information we get from the United States Corps of Engineers, the Susquehanna Basin Commission. We really do, and we thank you for your commitment to helping to better prepare for these kinds of seismic floods that are coming faster than we ever imagined. Yes, Vince.
Yeah, the director of FEMA, Craig Fugate, sends his regards, and we have told him how you've embraced the program. He's very proud of that. We want people to know that the flooding situation around the country is something that can be dealt with if we have enough information, and that's why we at FEMA have come together with 7 other federal agencies, and then we have brought people in, as you know, from the state agencies to do this flood awareness program. And this flood awareness program is going to generate the conversation. It's going to drive people to take actions to protect themselves. We have programs that cities can apply for that will give them funds to elevate houses in neighborhoods, or buy out houses and level those places and make them open space. We also want to encourage folks to buy federal flood insurance to protect themselves, so that when there is an event and they do get hit, they have a flood insurance policy in place. We also want people to know that they can take simple measures that will save them a lot of headaches. If you take your important documents upstairs to the top floors, the floodwaters come in and they rise up from the basement. If you got all your stuff in the basement, you're kind of just asking for it. Move those documents. So flood insurance, moving documents, doing things like buyouts and elevations, those are important mitigation, which is the part of FEMA that I work in. Those are important mitigation steps that people can take to protect themselves and their property and their families.
And thank you for bringing that back home again, because really it is about minimizing your risk, minimizing your loss, and the quicker we get the information, then the more informed we can make our citizens, and that way insurance companies should love us for this. They should be underwriting these programs, quite frankly, because when Mother Nature comes in, like a flood that is just not controllable, then it costs a lot more for them in terms of their buyouts. And so we want to make sure that we continue to engage everybody in this process. I want to thank all of you for coming. Let's close this out by talking about why are we getting these kinds of seismic storms? Because I don't want us to. We can talk all day long about how I believe that I'm a Christian woman, unapologetic about it, and I talk about things that's happening in the Bible. But there's some scientific things that are going on here, and if we really want to touch on that, if anyone wants to talk about why we're getting these kinds of seismic storms, is man just building wherever they want, and they're forgetting about the naturalness of Mother Nature? What's causing these seismic storms?
That's a good question. I think part of it is probably we have more record, right, of time. We've only been really tracking things for the last couple, 100 years in the United States. So
yeah, we saw some data. In fact, it was the Patriot News that pulled a story up and reminded us of a flood that came before Agnes. And was just as high, and I'm like, incredible,
We're also very pleased at the way you want to protect and enhance your tax base, which is good.
Yes.
But when you build those things, those shopping centers and those new developments, that covers ground where the water used to sink in. And one of the things that's happening is the water has nowhere to go, and so we're going to have floods as we increase and enhance our cities.
Well, I want to say we just completed our 100-year floodplain. and modeled it a little bit after the counties. And we're very excited about it because we are encouraging businesses through ordinances that they have to have their infrastructure designed so that there's storm runoff ability and also elements in the ground to absorb the water so that it doesn't affect our storm and water inlets. So we're very excited that we're really keeping pace with what's happening out there to help, again, minimize our casualty loss and property loss. So we're very pleased with what we've been trying to do, and this is just another added value tool here for us. And we thank you all for coming and helping us to launch this program and engaging the kids and allowing them to become the information agents at the dinner table. To talk to parents about, preparing for this and staying in touch with local media. And I try to have a press conference every hour or every hour and a half, just updating the citizens about what's happening. And that's been very, very helpful to the citizens in terms of understanding that by Wednesday, you will be in the flood and get out now. So our families have been very participatory in understanding the importance of getting out. And our shelters, our partners with Red Cross, and where they stage the shelters and they stock up with food and personal items so people can feel comfortable in those environments that often they don't want to go into because everyone's comfortable in their home. So again, we thank all of you for being here today. And can you just close it out by talking about how people can minimize their risk to floods?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, just to go back to your last question about why is this happening, and I wish I could tell you why. I don't know that any of us could claim to know exactly why, but it does certainly appear that within the last 10 years we've had some more frequent events. But I think with that, it's also important to understand that Mother Nature can always one-up herself, and we've made a lot of decisions as a society thinking we can predict what's going to happen in the future based on what's happened in the past. And I think if nothing else, we're learning now that may not be the case. And so when we talk about a flood of 33.27 feet at Harrisburg, something on the order of Agnes, I think it's also important to remember that very likely will happen again and something even higher. So in terms of preparation, we talked a little bit about it. I think it was a great point that was made that really the time to know your risk and understand your risk is when it's not flooding. When we're not having an event that we can prepare, and the inundation maps that Stacy described and the high water mark initiative allows people to recognize that, one, there is flood risk in the community, and then try and sort of understand where that risk is in terms of if you're on 2nd Street, you can look at an inundation map that'll show you that at 29, 30 feet you may have flooding, but that may not be the case at the same location at 20 feet. And so you can begin to get an appreciation for one, an understanding of the forecast, but then understanding what type of action is important to take when that particular forecast is issued. So I think it's really, I think the best thing that people can do is one, understand that you're in a community, living in a community that there is flood risk, and then and make an effort to understand when that risk will impact you and your particular property, and then make appropriate plans, and then ultimately when the event does come, take the necessary action to protect your life and property.
Thank you all for coming to our great city. Vince Brown from FEMA, Stacy Underwood from the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and also Ben Pratt, hydraulic engineer from Susquehanna River Basin Commission. Thank you for your expertise, your knowledge here today. You've made it very exciting, thought-provoking. And parents and neighbors, you've heard probably one of the most interesting stories on Channel 20 regarding your safety and the need for you to become empowered with knowledge to better prepare yourself for these kinds of seismic storms that Harrisburg's not absent from. You always have a child that is a guru tech in the house who's always on the computer. Designate that child to be the person that goes in and explore the website, and we'll put it up on the screen, particularly the one that we're talking about today that has the inundation maps, because again, you're talking about how you can determine the increments of water rising in your area, how quickly it's coming, what feet it's going to be at, and that child could be the person that constantly keeps the family informed. You don't have to worry about the media anymore or mayor coming out on press conferences. You will be able to have on-demand information through those inundation maps. If you just assign one of your children who you know that's always on that computer, fact-checking and looking for research projects, and that person should be the designated person that lets the family know how quickly that storm is coming and whether you are in a vulnerable state and get your family out safely. So thank you again. You'll hear more about this program, Know Your High Watermark Line. I'm glad to bring this to Harrisburg, and God bless all of you, and thank you for tuning in. Bye now.